Okay, I think we're away. This is workshop 2 in the live event that I'm running this week to celebrate women in business. Absolutely loved delivering workshop 1 yesterday. I hope those of you that were able to join and those that caught it later on the replay enjoyed the conversations that I was leading you to in there. We covered a lot of important ground yesterday. We were meandering all about the rise of female entrepreneurship and all about the stats. Primarily, I was sharing some mind-blowing stats around the inequalities that still exist in female leadership, in female entrepreneurship, running your own business. And I was also talking about what I felt we could do to address the balance and overcome some of the challenges that exist, the barriers that we know exist. A lot of initiatives and research have been done around why it's not currently an equal playing field for women running businesses. And really, I suppose what I wanted to get across yesterday in workshop 1 was about the importance of having community and collaboration around working together and supporting one another and getting access to trusted resources and advice from peers and mentors and people that can really guide you in your business from a genuine and compassionate place with a good set of values. And where that was leading us to, which is where we are going to now go today, is talking about leadership generally as a concept, and importantly, translating that into you as a leader in your business, because ultimately, that is the most important thing. How you lead yourself in your business, how you show up, the values that you bring to your business, your personality that you infuse into your business, and really the attitude that you deploy day to day and the relationships that you form is what is going to make a huge difference in the success of your business, but also in how happy and fulfilled you feel from day to day in your business, which ultimately is hand in glove with success in business and growth in business. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And you've heard me say yesterday and probably in various posts that I've been kind of putting out on social media in recent weeks, you've heard me say that intrinsically the value of being able to lead yourself more powerfully in business is about investing in yourself as your greatest asset in business, and really looking into what you believe about leadership, what you've been taught to believe perhaps in the corporate environment, and maybe reimagining and rewriting the rules of leadership, both for yourself and for all of us as female leaders working together. So I'm just going to swap over and get my slides up for this session now. I don't necessarily want to be just going through the slides for the whole of the session. It would be lovely if there's people live who want to get in on the conversation, then we can have more of an interactive session. But I am going to start by going through what I've prepared for the session. Here we go. Just to give us a bit of structure, I suppose it's always helpful. So values-driven leadership, new rules is what I've called it. Talking about how we have the opportunity, we've got this amazing opportunity, we're leading our own businesses, and we can do that in a way that feels good to us, that feels empowering, that feels different, I suppose, in the short term, because we're talking about stepping into a new type of leadership, but hopefully when you connect with it, one that feels more real for you as a woman. And yesterday I was talking about feminine leadership and feminine traits of leadership, which is what we're going to be exploring today. And I'll be at pains to say to you that this isn't based on gender. So this isn't based on you being a woman in leadership in business, or even being a man in leadership or in business. It's about looking at your values, your strengths, and the traits that we know are most important to success in business and leadership, and having a mix of what have been traditionally masculine traits and traditionally feminine traits. This is a real opportunity for us as women in business to start bringing more of those feminine traits to the fore and really getting them valued, having them to be held up as traits that people generally as human beings actually want to see in the leaders in the world leadership, in global leadership, but also in corporate and therefore in small business leadership, which is why we're talking about it. So this sense of addressing the balance was where we got to yesterday, I think, with the inequalities. So we want to see an environment where we are able, as women leading businesses, to succeed at a similar level to those which are founded by men. And that means getting access to high quality information. It means getting access to tools and resources that you can really trust and rely upon. Fair access to funding. We're going to be talking about that more on Thursday in workshop 3, because I've got the wonderful Archana coming in to talk to us about funding and investment in more detail. And then it's about, we touched upon ambition and excellence and having more diversity to stimulate innovation. So addressing the balance is about bringing more women into business, but also allowing us to work with our male counterparts in a way to just get that equal playing field, and hopefully helping them to lead in a way that feels more balanced for them as well. So many men that I work with want to embrace more feminine, traditionally feminine attributes of leadership, because they know how important it is to their own leadership style. And we can really help by that. We can really help by bringing our own natural strengths to the fore and inspiring and supporting them to bring those things to the fore that, for no fault of their own, they've not been encouraged to do. You know, this is societal and cultural. We know it's going to take time to address the balance. For those of us that are parents, I know if you've got boys, you're raising boys, you actually want to make sure that you're equipping them for modern society. And we all know that this is a trend that we need to embrace. So the question about what is leadership? I mean, I really struggled with this, I'll be honest, when I was putting together the collateral for this, because if you look at definitions of leadership, they are many and varied. It's a very complex topic. It is, you know, something that people don't necessarily agree on about what makes a good leader, what it takes to succeed as a leader, what characteristics and values you might like to see in leaders. There's lots of different opinions. Indeed, I put on here, if you put a search into Google, there's 479 million definitions that come up in that search. And I was looking at an Inc.com article on leadership, and that really intrigued me because it had taken the time to do 100 quotes about leadership. Some of them were very inspirational, some of them felt helpful to me, but when I was going down the list, I was like, do you know, there's maybe 4 or 5 out of 100 that were quotes by women. They were all quotes by powerful men from history who, I'm sure in the main, had been doing their best to achieve positive change, but actually the tenor of the definitions around leadership were very, what we would call masculine. They were about asserting yourself in a powerful way. It was about making other people do what they want, what you want, even when they don't agree. So there was a lot about persuasion in there. There was about leading forcefully and really taking action, a real action bias in the quotes. And the very few little quotes that were from women were really about compassion and leading with your heart and trusting your intuition and your instincts and caring about other people, particularly if they were talking about leading a team. They were wanting to resonate and empathize with that team so that they could truly deliver the best results for the collective, not just for themselves. So that's really interesting, right? When we look at the historic and the traditional definitions of leadership, and then we think about why women haven't been given a voice in that conversation. So I know it's not the best of data that I'm presenting in that example, but you know, Inc.com, which has got a huge readership, they've chosen to display 100 quotes about leadership, and they're nearly all from men. And it's the same when we look at leadership books. If you were to take a list of, you know, the 10, 20, or even 50, 100 books written on leadership, they're nearly all by men. So what we have is this kind of, you know, backdrop and this library of information about leadership, which is predominantly based on the masculine energy around leadership. So I've put a few words on there: achievement, progress, net worth, muscle and grit, access to financial resources, and exerting influence. So those are certainly some of the words that jump to mind for me and my experience in corporate leadership. I saw a lot of competition around leadership, a lot of conflict, a lot of unhealthy habits and unhealthy behaviors. They certainly felt unhealthy to me. They didn't make me feel good around watching the people at the top kind of fighting it out for power and being very directional on the people in the team. There were many occasions in my time in corporate where I just did not feel listened to. I didn't feel I was heard. I didn't feel that my opinions mattered. I would feel that I was silenced or devalued in the contributions that I tried to make. And there was a combination of things going on. There was the female aspect, but there was also the age. I was quite young as a leader, and there was also the discipline that I was working in. So I'm not saying that it was all gender specific, but certainly what I felt in myself during those years was also traced back to my childhood. So growing up at a time when, you know, girls were told to be good, and maybe we were going to be cooking, we were going to be a good housewife when we grew older. I wasn't really taught to be ambitious as one of the key things that my parents or even my school conditioned into me when I was a child, and that carried on into my leadership into my 20s and 30s, so that by the time I set up my own business, I was challenged to think about who am I as a leader in my business, and what makes a good leader, and what characteristics do I want to display. That was a really sort of difficult and transformational time for me. You know, setting up in business forced me to think about those things, because suddenly I had a blank piece of paper. I could write my own rules, I could run the business my way, and create a culture that felt good to me and be the person that I wanted to be. And I didn't know, to be honest, when I first set up in my own business. I had so many hang-ups from my corporate life. I'd been conditioned to act as a certain type of leader, that suddenly having all this freedom to lead my way was quite disorienting. And the example that I always give, so if you've known me for a while, you'll have heard this story. But, you know, when I was a lawyer in corporate and banking, you know, quite a masculine discipline even now, and I had this beautiful red suit. I was in my early 20s. I had a beautiful red suit that I'd saved up my pay to buy. I've got a superstition about red. For me, it resembles power, it resembles confidence and courage. And I was called into one of the partners' office one day, and I was wearing this red suit, and essentially he told me that I was never to wear that suit again in the law firm, that I had to fit in with wearing a black suit or a grey suit or a pinstriped suit, because red was seen as confrontational, or it was an angry colour, was the words that he said. And as leaders in the business, then it was important that we didn't overpower our clients, that we didn't come across as aggressive. And he wanted me to get rid of that suit and wear a colour that was more subdued and official and professional. And I did. I mean, I was in my mid-20s, and I guess didn't have the benefit of wisdom, and also it was a different time that we were living in, although I'm sad to say the law hasn't moved on that much. But I changed for many years, and that conversation stuck with me so much that when I set up my own business, I put red into my branding. I wore a red piece of clothing every single day. I would drive a red car. To me, it became a symbol of how I wouldn't let somebody else dictate to me again in the future how I should lead, how I should show up, who I should be. And something as artificial as aesthetics or what we look like on the outside, that would never again be something that I would be judged on, that I would be very much led from my internal compass, my beliefs, my strengths, the way I wanted to show up in the world wouldn't be directed by a leader. Those were kind of promises that I made to myself. So I've put some questions in there, and I hope my little story has kind of inspired you. You know, what do you think makes a good leader? What type of leader do you want to be? What type of traits do you think someone needs to have to succeed as a leader? And how does that translate to you? So what sort of traits are you telling yourself that you need to have to succeed as a leader in business? The definition in the dictionary is really quite unhelpful, I think. It talks about the fact of being a leader. It's like, I am one, therefore I am. It's like, well, it's like a circular definition. And then it talks about the set of values, which we're going to explore today. It doesn't actually tell you what they are. And then it talks about this idea of being more successful than your competitors, which I do actually like. But it comes back to what we were talking about yesterday. You know, what is the definition of success? What does success even mean? How do you prove, or how do you feel internally that you are more successful than these competitors? Do we even need to have competitors in business? You know, I actually think that collaboration is more powerful than competition. And if you're successful, you can lift other people up in that success and you can all move forward together. So I kind of feel the dictionary is just not that helpful, which comes back to my point about we're rewriting the rules here. We are creating a new version of what leadership can look like in the 21st century. Now, I did talk yesterday about feminine and masculine energy, and I just wanted to clarify what I mean, or just spend a few minutes talking through why this isn't about gender bias. I mean, it is, because it's unconscious bias that's there in our society and our culture. But when I'm talking about feminine leadership and the traits that we have, it's not about us as female leaders kind of taking over the world. It's about us bringing more of our traditionally feminine attributes, which tend to come more naturally to us, bringing those to the fore and really role modeling them, so that men and women in business who are working more in a masculine style, more with alpha attributes of leadership, can start to see a sea change in the way that we're leading. And as small business owners, we have this incredible opportunity, because it's much harder to break leadership styles, I believe, inside a corporate, which has its own culture. Whereas in our own business, we have an opportunity to really examine this feminine energy, this masculine energy, what it means to leadership, and then decide how to lead our business forward by showing up as the most authentic and most truthful, honest versions of ourselves. No mean feat, by the way, but we have the option, we have the choice, we have the ability to do that. So, like I said, many people wrongly assume that masculine and feminine agenda, that they're actually like yin and yang in life generally, in the world, in the universe. They're essential for us to survive and to thrive with each other. So when we look at what we think about masculinity, going back in hundreds, thousands of years around what's been written about this, the masculine energy is about more of a focus on the self and the ability to survive, which is really important, of course. And the feminine is more of a focus on others, more of a focus on outside of yourself and the ability to thrive within communities, with others. We're, as a mother, the symbol of a mother is about nurturing other people and helping other people and putting them above yourself. Evolution tells us that if we didn't have that biology in us as mothers, then we probably wouldn't survive as a species, because if you've had children, you will understand that a long period, certainly in the newborn days, but then really for years that follow, 18 years essentially we raise our children, we're kind of putting them first. And of course, men as parents do that as well. There's biology there, but it's stronger in the women. So if we let's just leave that as the basic premise, because we could talk about that theory over and over again, because as human beings, we're not like exclusively one or the other. We're made up of all these different traits and attributes, and we acquire different traits and attributes over the years as we grow up. But as a fundamental basis in terms of looking at masculine and feminine, they are different, and what we need in leadership is the ability to bring both sets of qualities to merge together, to kind of be integrated, the best of all the energies, and also decide when to play with different traits, when to bring one more powerfully forward than the other, and our own personal balance and what feels good to us, and that will change in different situations. This is in Harvard Business Review. I thought this was fascinating. So they took a cross section, 64,000 people, talked about what are the most highly rated correlated characteristics for the ideal modern leader. And actually, as you can see, 8 of the 10 were actually feminine traits. So seen as grounded in feminine energy, whereas only 2 on the other side was seen as what was traditionally seen as masculine traits. And I think this is fabulous, and it illustrates the point of what I'm saying, is that these traits aren't exclusively one or the other. You can have these traits just as a human being, but what we're saying is for modern leadership, we need to bring more of the ones on the left to the fore if we're going to succeed. and what matters to you. And so these are, you know, kind of, I'm gently leading you, aren't I? Because this is my presentation and I'm allowed to do that. But these are things that come up for me when I think about how I want to be as a leader. I want to be more gentle. I want to have empathy. I'm just laughing because I can see Scott in the comments saying that he absolutely sees empathy as being a key word that comes up when he thinks about leadership. That's why I love you, Scott. Empathy is so important in leadership, isn't it? Seeing somebody else's perspective, being able to put yourself in their shoes, and when you make a decision, take those different perspectives into account. I really care about sensitivity, and allowing sensitivity to come to the fore when I'm leading, and I want to be seen to care and have compassion. I genuinely do. I think compassionate leadership is one of the most powerful forces for good that we can have in the world. I love it when people describe me as insightful, as being values driven, being unafraid to fail. I mean, we talk a lot about failure in the world of entrepreneurship, because it is the route to learning, it is the route to tweaking and course correcting, but it's incredibly hard to fail. Well, it's easy to fail, actually. You just need to keep trying new things and you're inevitably going to fail. But when I say it's hard to fail, I mean, you know, we have all these connotations when we're leading our businesses that we need to be seen to be doing things right and not making mistakes, and people are looking to us for the answers and we don't want to get it wrong. But actually, if we're just able to hold our hands up to failure and say, I did make a mistake, but I'm going to put it right and I'm going to clean it up and I'm going to do things differently, you know, that's incredibly powerful. Being able to question and answer. Question is about curiosity as well, isn't it? You know, I think it's a really important trait to just keep asking curiously, like, what can I learn here? What am I bringing to this meeting? What is my intention when I make this speech? I mean, I very much sat in that this morning as I was thinking about this session that I was doing today. What is my intention when I deliver this session? And honestly, I rewrote all my slides about an hour before I ran the session, because I realized that the intention I had last week when I'd put the framework together had changed based on, I looked at who was in the group and I looked at the conversations we were starting to have, and I looked at what I wanted you to take away and what really mattered to me, and I just went, actually, I'm going to change it all. And that in itself is leadership. You know, it's making these decisions kind of in the spur of the moment by looking inside yourself and saying, what is my intention? What do I want to express in this moment? And being open to changing that. And being fluid and flexible and adaptable. These are traits, you know, with technology at the fore in the 21st century. We know, I'm going back to the research, I'm such a research geek, but we know that robots and artificial intelligence are actually going to be the thing that impacts the labour workforce so much in the decade to come. And the thing as humans that differentiates us from robots is the ability to problem solve, to be creative, to be curious, to ask questions, to come at problems from a different direction and use our kind of innate intelligence. That is the trait above all else that is going to be valued for leaders in the decade ahead. And you know, you're running your own business, or you're thinking about it, and if you bring your uniqueness and your perspective and your lens and your problem solving and your curiosity and your ability to empathize with the problems that you've seen that you want to solve, then that is a huge advantage. And as I say, traditionally they're feminine traits, so we want more of the male leaders to be able to exercise those type of attributes more powerfully, so that we can innovate and create as a collective to solve these very complex problems that we're seeing globally. So what I'm expressing, and hopefully this is making sense, is that it's feminine leadership is a state of being and something that belongs to all of us simply as human beings. It's focusing on being more well-rounded, having a healthier approach to the way that we show up in business and in our community. So it's role modeling the things that we believe in, you know, having integrity at our core in the things that we say, the things that we do, and leading by example, particularly when we're parenting, because children aren't just listening to the words that we say, they are watching what we do. God, this makes me so emotional, this topic. Because, you know, I really believe as a business leader that I want to have flexibility. I talked about that yesterday. And I talk about that to my children. And yet sometimes I see myself starting to work too many hours or starting to travel too much and being away from home. And my kids, if I'm listening to them, they will tune me back in because they'll be like, Mummy, you know, you promised that you would watch this with us, or you promised that you'd play that game with us, or you promised that you would be always at my, you know, school performances or whatever. There's a performance that Ruby's in next month that now clashes with a meeting that I've got in my diary, and she's really putting the pressure on me. And, you know, that's my decision as a leader of my own business, luckily. What am I going to do? And I have to role model myself the behaviors that I want the people that I'm helping to also put foremost in their life. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because otherwise we're out of integrity. There's no point me coming on a call like this and talking to you guys about the importance of balance and creating flexibility, and then suddenly working 16, 18 hours a day, or preaching the hustle elsewhere on social media. You know, I have to be in line with my values. And this emphasis upon emotional intelligence. Sometimes people switch off when I start to talk about emotional intelligence. I'm going to have to think of a sexier, more interesting way of talking about this, because it's really just about how you tune in to your environment, the conversation that you're in, the energy that somebody is bringing to a meeting, or what you feel in the room when you are sharing information, and being able to change and adapt and communicate to suit to suit a change in environment or in the person. It's really important, and it's closely linked to intuition. And do you like my hashtag? This is really funny hashtag, but it makes me laugh because I had a beautiful phone call last week with an old friend. He's not old, he's the same age as me, which is not old. But he called me last week kind of out of the blue, and it was really because he'd seen some of what I've been sharing in social media. And he's now in a corporate leadership position, and he wanted to loosely sort of explore with me this stuff that I'm doing for you guys as business owners. Is it, you know, something that I can take into his workplace and talk to his people about? Because there's really lots of shared common ground, of course. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to explore that conversation. And we got on to him telling me about his challenges as a male leader when he wants to bring traditionally more feminine attributes to the fore, whatever you want to call them, and how he gets his team to really step into their own personal power and be more of who they are and do the right thing with integrity, with their customers, with all of that. Anyway, he said, what he says to me at the end of every single meeting is, just don't be a dickhead. He's a very down-to-earth character, Cockney accent, and I can just imagine him saying it. But I thought it was beautiful. I mean, if that's the only way to explain emotional intelligence, really, is just check in with what's going on around you and who you're with and the conversations that you're having, and just don't be a dickhead. Just, you know, really try as much as you can to do the right thing in any given moment. I think that's a lovely way. I'm going to hashtag that everywhere I go. Okay, so Scott's right, empathy at the top of the list, vulnerability, asking for help. We talked about this yesterday, didn't we? Humility is a really interesting one in modern leadership, because what we want more than anything is to be serving others and helping others in what we do. So we've got to be really strongly believing in solutions that we're putting out there, but also looking to credit other people where they have helped us. You know, in the legal side of my business, one of my absolute pet hates, but I'm seeing it all the time, is the copycatting and infringement of intellectual property rights, stealing things from other people, trying to take credit for them. You know, that is not leadership, is it? You know, leadership in your business is, yes, you can be inspired and you can be influenced and you can love other people's concepts and you can share them, and that's actually really helpful for the ripple effect. But give credit to other people who have helped you on the way, and credit their input and the influence that they've had on you, instead of trying to prove that you've done all that yourself, because none of us can do all this on our own, and nor should we want to. It's not about doing it alone. You're gonna hear me banging on a lot about community, aren't you, in the next couple of days? Community and collaboration, just so important. Inclusiveness, Generosity, balance, patience. Now, it's at the bottom of this list, but actually it's one of the most important traits for a modern leader, and it can be described in many different ways. Perseverance, determination, possibly, being consistent with the actions you take. But here I've defined it as just taking a long-term view. Just so difficult for many of us running small businesses. I definitely include myself in this. I'm really quite impatient as a person, and I think it's a hang up to being in corporate and always trying to prove myself as a leader, always trying to get results as fast as I could, because I'd be worried that somebody would overtake me, or somebody would steal my ideas, or I wouldn't get credit. So some of the other things we were talking about. And you have to be really patient in your business. Like, business growth takes a long time. My good friend, and you know, I really rate her systems and what she teaches very highly, Gemma Went, she talks a lot about 90-day systems. I mean, that's not her concept, you know, that is well known within business growth, but when she works with people, I remember her vividly talking to me when I was trying to get all my tech up and running. She just said to me, you have to stick with something for like 90 days. So if you're going to start doing Facebook ads, if you're going to start doing live videos, if you're going to start doing you know, whatever strategies that you've picked, you have to just stick with it for like 90 days. And for most of us, particularly in the online world, I see it as not doing that. I see it as just like giving up before we've even really given it a fair chance. And that's the same across all areas of business growth, I would say. Being patient with yourself, because we have to learn all these new skills when we're leading a business. And so you can't suddenly expect to be overnight magically brilliant at all the different areas of business. You have to be patient and kind with yourself. So where are we going? How are we doing for time? I do not want to overrun today. I felt really bad yesterday that yesterday's session was just too long for most of you, I think, to sit down and consume in one go. And I apologise for that. It's just I get incredibly passionate about these topics. Conversations that I love to have. So I'm determined not to overrun today. What does this mean for you? So I just said about 5-10 minutes ago, you know, what was my intention for the session today? Well, I really want you to think about yourself as a leader in business. And some of you may not even badge yourself as a leader right now because of all the connotations that we've just been talking about, because of the fact that it can be seen to be about being powerful and dictating results, and maybe even, you know, crushing other people in the pursuit of leadership. For me, when you're leading yourself in business, and my intention in sharing this today was about really helping you to think about how you empower yourself to succeed as the best version of you, which means leading yourself first. So when I work with clients on a one-to-one coaching basis, or even in small groups, what we spend time doing always is digging into you as a unique person, and therefore you're going to be the unique leader in your business. You know, what are your unique skills and talents? Looking at all your expertise and your experience, the contribution you want to make, the change you want to see in the world, all your ideas, how compassionate you are, how well you're looking after yourself, as well as the time you're spending looking after others, because that can be a really interesting question around how much energy you've even got to spend on your business. And how you're able to be honest and speak up from what you believe in your business, and even in your life and your community, because they're all interlinked, they're all integrated, aren't they? Your conviction that you can bounce back, and this is last on the list, but it's hugely important. How strong are you from a resilience perspective? Resilience is about bouncing back from adversity, but it's also about how quickly you're able to bounce back and how well you know what tools are going to help you with that bounce back. You know, what is it that you do? What are your go-tos when bad times come, when failures come, or when personal situations arise? Because these are the things that are going to derail you otherwise as a leader in your business, because in the early years, there's only you. You may well start to get a team and have other people, perhaps outsource support, but ultimately, when you're running your own business, it comes back to you, who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for, how willing you are to get out and talk about things you believe in, the change you want to see in the world, and how truthful you are being about that. So, massively important for me as a leader in business, and particularly talking to women in business, is this sense of being honest about the struggles that we have as leaders, and being really honest and vulnerable about the shit that goes down behind the scenes. So much of what I see, particularly on social media and online, which is honestly why I've kind of resisted being involved in online business too much. I love offline business. I love relationships. I love being in a room and connecting with people at a deep level. I have held myself back from being in online business. And one of the big reasons for that is that I see so many facades and personas being placed out there by leaders of businesses, saying that they are achieving certain things, or they're succeeding in certain ways, or talking about metrics that they have in their business, and putting forward solutions for people to then buy from them or learn from them, which just don't tell the full story. And one of the reasons, honestly, that I know they don't tell the full story is that often behind the scenes, I've worked with a lot of these leaders in business. They might have come to me for help with resolving a dispute, or they might have wanted me to put together their contracts, or they might have wanted me to help with a growth strategy. So I've worked with them behind the scenes, and I've learned that so much crap going on, and often there's lies is probably too strong a word in all of the cases. Some of the cases it's very true, but sometimes it's just like a hiding or a half truth, only showing the shiny stuff about their business. And I guess when I came to do this launch, and also when by the end of the week, I'll be talking to you about the greenhouse concept and the community that I want to build. It's absolutely, for me, grounded in us all telling the truth about the struggles of building a business, growing a business, or even just sustaining one in the, day to day, the month to month, even when you're not trying to grow it. We learned yesterday that 70% of women are not even thinking about growing their businesses. They just want to sustain it. And I know this isn't just me, but I'm going to put it out there. Leadership, being the leader in your small business and standing up and being a leader as a woman in your community, it is hard work. It is challenging. It brings these really unique struggles, I guess, that are a mixture of internal and external forces. So, am I the right person to do this? Having doubts about your abilities, holding yourself back because you think you don't have the right expertise, comparing yourself to other people. They're like the internal struggles. And then we have the external struggles, which are then like, not being able to get access to funding, things we talked about yesterday, but also what other people might be saying to you, not having supportive family members, perhaps not having the right coach to guide you, and having people say to you, maybe, why don't you just go back and get a job? And all of those things together make it very difficult for us to lead ourselves to success in our businesses from this internal perspective. And because leadership historically has had this focus on external results, and because we tend not to be patient enough with the results that we get in business, then that's what leads to this overall sense of being hard on yourself for not achieving enough, being hard on yourself for not moving fast enough, being hard on yourself for just having a bad day, for just having a day when you're like, I do not know what I'm doing, I'm completely overwhelmed, I'm doing all of the wrong things, nobody's getting any benefit from the service that I'm providing. I mean, I could go on and on. There's probably a list of like 100 things that on a bad day we share these doubts to a lesser or greater degree. And what we're here to talk about when we talk about leadership is how we lead ourselves forward so that we have better inner self-belief, so that we have a better sense of who we are and what we want to achieve, so we can stay focused and with a bias for action, and how we can really get more, I suppose, playful and curious about the businesses that we're growing, so that we take the pressure off and we take off this superwoman cloak that so many of us have inherited from leadership, and just say, it is enough for me to just work through the things on my to-do list today. That is me leading myself through the day and getting done, tick, 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 just these things and not thinking about everything else. And I hope this is really resonating with you as you watch this, because it can't just be me as a leader in business who struggles with bad days and struggles to kind of get perspective. You know, in a way, I've amazed myself by how many struggles I've actually had. Because I guess when I set up in business with my corporate background, and I was a lawyer and I'd helped hundreds and hundreds of businesses, and whilst I was in private practice and whilst I was in corporate, and then I set up with this great sense of confidence, and I really believed I had most of the building blocks in place, you know, financial nous, commercial nous. I've always had a level of confidence around my own abilities. And so all the pitfalls and the curveballs that have come in the subsequent years of business, I'll be honest, have really surprised me. And every day, you know, a new challenge and something else to overcome. And that's before we even get on to life challenges. You know, some of you will know that I had an absolutely massive life challenge 3 or 4 years ago when our little daughter Bella got poorly. That was such a dark time for me in life, but also in business, because everything that I knew about myself in business, you know, the ability to show up and take care of other people, my clients, my team members, it was just gone like overnight. And I had to find a way to do business differently and to pivot my business and change. And actually, as a result, I lost quite a lot of confidence, because when you're out of action for a period of time, it can affect you really, really badly. So I'm going to be talking about that more later in the week, particularly in the session that I have with Rebecca on Thursday evening. Rebecca's an amazing therapist, but specific to leaders in business. And I've worked with her to get support. I recommend always having a coach. I mean, I've been in business 10 years and I think I've been without a coach for a really short period of time. I'm always looking for somebody to guide me and teach me in different ways. And Rebecca's who I'm choosing to work with at the moment, because I'm still recovering from some of that trauma that happened in my personal life. And it affects everything you do as a leader in business. Your personal life absolutely affects your ability to show up and lead most powerfully. And so all of that to say, I do talk too much, don't I? But coming back to the point about being honest and being vulnerable, and I want more leaders in business, yourself included, thinking about what we're talking about today, to just be really honest about how challenging it can be, and to embrace that, because when we overcome the challenges and we push through them, I don't even mean the word push actually, I mean lead ourselves through them at whatever pace or in whatever way we need, we have so much more that we can share with other people. You know, these are gifts, the gifts of adversity, that we can then help others in the struggles that they're having, in the challenges that they're having. And that's what collaboration is, right? That is what it feels. I mean, to me, it's what lights me up, is if I've been through something that's difficult and I can use that experience to help somebody else, to give them a new perspective, to really move them through their difficulties faster and in a more resilient way, then that feels amazing to me, which is why I do the work that I do. So where are we? Yeah, just 5 minutes. I'm going to bring this session to a close now. I've given you loads and loads of things to think about. This slide, as I say, I rewrote my slides this morning, and David Taylor, who is a very good friend of mine, he's been my coach in the past and now he's doing filmmaking. He does my films, if you've watched any of my films, and I love conversations with David because he's always been somebody that makes me think differently. And he rang me this morning just to check in and give me some thoughts on leadership, and he shared these questions which actually we have discussed in the past, he and I think they're great ones. I mean, that's the sign of a great coach, is asking great questions. But as we were on our phone call this morning, we were talking about the bias for action. So when you're leading yourself in life and in business, it's like, what am I focusing on today in order to get results? And what are the results that we're looking to get? And is the action that I'm taking really moving me powerfully forward in that direction, even if it's just in a small way? Am I internally directed? which is a beautiful one, and we've touched upon that earlier in the session. But am I really tapped into what my values are and my vision, and am I courageously willing to then take a stand and speak up on behalf of that internal dialogue, to be truthful and honest about what I see and what my unique perspective is and the difference I want to make in the world, even if you're a lone voice at that time, even if everyone else disagrees with you or they're just acting like they don't value what you say. You know, that is true leadership. Very, very difficult, I might add, but really staying true to you is a massive part of being a strong leader. Am I focused on serving and helping others? Well, we touched upon this when we talked about the feminine energy, and instead of doing things in your business that are solely for yourself or solely on just surviving, how much can we turn the dial in our business to really looking at serving other people? And this can be such a powerful transformative tool. It's what's brought me to this week of celebrating women in business, because as I've said, I'm not very active online. I have a lot of psychological barriers about how well I can deliver on tech, but actually I was so driven to deliver these workshops this week because I know that this information can really be transformational for so many people, and I know that they're conversations that just aren't being had out there, or at least not enough and not in great enough numbers. And that's what drove me to come here. And you know, I've always taken the idea that if you can just change somebody's life, just one person at a time, that is enough. And the more we can put that into our business, you know, one person at a time, one day at a time, 1 week at a time, we're going to keep moving forward with momentum and not be looking outside at like what other people are doing or the metrics around financial success, just really tuning into that instinct that just wants to help and serve and nurture others. And this fourth question, am I externally open? So we talked about emotional intelligence, or hashtag don't be a dickhead. And then there's also social intelligence, which is kind of interacting with that, which is adapting to your environment and things that are going on maybe in the news or are topical. And so you're staying on point and keeping with trends and what's going on culturally. And that sensitivity to picking up on signs, you know, so important for leadership. Comes back to empathy, which Scott was rightly saying in the comments is, you know, a really key trait to be an empathetic leader. And also empathy for yourself. When we're having the bad days, when we're struggling, to accept that leadership can be hard, to accept that it can be a weight on your shoulders, to have people relying on you and having to make all these decisions and find answers and find solutions, and just being compassionate for yourself and having empathy for you doing the best thing you can do on that day. We haven't touched upon it a lot on this call, but the other unique thing about being a woman leader, and I've had to really work with this myself over the last 10 years or so, is how much our cycle, our biological cycle through the month, can affect our ability to lead in different ways. I literally like timed this week in the week that I knew that within my cycle I've got the most energy, I've got the most ability to communicate most strongly, because my hormones are at a level where I'm happy to be seen and I'm happy to talk and share and be innovative. There's literally a week or possibly 4 or 5 days out of a month when all I want to do is hibernate, all I want to do is hide, just don't feel like being out and about in the world. And running my own business, we have this amazing liberty to do that. And I make those days every month to be more like content creation. It's when I do my writing. I might be doing blogs. I might be thinking about content creation for programs, you know, so the greenhouse, which is what I'm bringing to you at the moment. But you know, all of the writing and the love letters that I've written to my future clients have been done on those sort of days when I've been hibernating. And you have to take account of that in your business, because we don't want you to be pushing through in that style of leadership, which is like hustle, you know, just, yeah, push. We don't want it. It's not a route to success for anyone, actually. It's the fastest route to burnout and to stress. So bringing this session to a close, I'm so proud that I'm going to do this on time. And one of the main reasons that I wanted to run this event this week, to celebrate women in business, to talk about how we get more equality in business, and to just rumble and ruminate and meander in conversations through the good, the bad, the ugly of entrepreneurship, is this absolutely frightening stat that is telling us that too many women are giving up on their dreams. I mean, it does extend to men as well, but actually the main reason that's given from a practical perspective for male-founded businesses is also always around cash flow, managing cash, and we're going to come on and talk about that later in the week. But for women, it's this feeling of just, it's too hard, it's too difficult, I can't bloody make it work, alongside everything else that is going on. Most of us are caring for others in our life, whether that's children, young children, teenage children, even grown-up children bring their own complications and responsibilities in terms of finance and time, but also just around lack of knowledge, stuff we rumbled with yesterday, not feeling like you've got the right expertise, not feeling like you've got access to the right tools or the resources, not feeling like you are supported, not knowing where to go when you're having a shit day and you want an insight or a perspective from somewhere that's been there before. And what I want you to take most from today's session, as we've been meandering around this very complex topic of leadership, bringing more feminine traits to the fore, who you are as a person and individual, how you want to show up. You know, this question, I might bring this into the conversation with Rebecca, but as a leader, how do you want people to feel when you walk in the room? I mean, that made me cry the first time Rebecca asked me that question. And I think the problem is when we're isolating ourselves as women in business, when we're not connecting deeply enough with other people who are on the same path as us, or many of us work from home, that's when we get disconnected and we don't know who we are. We're not walking into enough rooms to even know how we want to make people feel. We don't know how we want to lead ourselves forward and how we want other people to perceive us. And that just feels, I mean, I've been there, so I'm speaking from experience. It feels so destructive, and you lose sight of who you are in your deepest core of yourself. You need other people to remind you that. I mean, that's what I've learned. That's where I go now. Some of my peers, my cheerleaders that I've got in my family, my partner's absolutely amazing. Scott, who's in my team, who's just been by my side for years. Some of my wonderful friends, you know, my kids as well, who are so proud of everything that I do. Did anyone see the video I put up on my page yesterday when they were banging on the window? Really made me laugh. But yeah, you know, those are the things that have stopped me giving up over the years. Those are the things that make me get up and keep going when it's hard, when I don't feel like a leader, on days when I don't even want to be like a leader, like I want somebody to look after me. We all have days like that. So, you know, an hour ago when I rewrote all these slides and I decided to bring you a different type of session from the one I had in mind, this was my intention, was to just share with you this one message. Please don't give up. Please don't give up. I'm going to create this community called the Greenhouse, and you know, at the end of the week, if it calls to you, I'll be inviting you in. And my absolute belief and heart-driven desire with creating that community is just to have a safe place where people can go and be honest about their celebrations, their ambitions, how wonderful it is when we have a great day and have people to cheerlead, but most importantly, to come there when you're having a shit day and you don't know how to lead yourself and you don't know who you are anymore. Like, we've all had days like that. Please tell me I'm not on my own. Oh, Hannah's saying she knows the feeling. Oh, and Karen, you're watching Cold Feet with lunch. Now that is interesting, isn't it? Because Cold Feet's quite an old series. So there's obviously something in you right there that wants to go back. Or is there a new series? Perhaps there's a new series of Cold Feet and I've missed it. But yeah, absolutely. You know, you're running your own business, you lead yourself. If you want to take a day off and go under the duvet, if you want to just, yeah, whatever you want to do, you can do it. But what I want you to take from today is this sense that we can get through anything. We can overcome any of the obstacles that we discussed yesterday as long as we come together, as long as we share, as long as we support one another, as long as we understand that these values that are the feminine traits of leadership, as long as we genuinely understand that they are now, there's a rise, there's a revolution. People are wanting to have these conversations. I believe that. You must believe that because you're here. So the time is now to lead ourselves forward. I'm going to stop. It's 1 o'clock. Thank you so much for those of you that have joined again today. Thank you so much. If you're watching on the replay, use the comments. Come and talk to me about all the meandering that we've done today. And I would really love to get your feedback on what we've been talking about, whether it was helpful for you, whether it was, you know, maybe I begged more questions than answers in what I've shared today, which wouldn't surprise me because it is a massive topic. And also just, you know, just talk to me, just engage with me, just be my friend. Be my friend. Friendship is what we need. Relationship. I always say trust is the currency of business. And I think if you can trust somebody and be honest with them, then that's the hallmark of whether you're going to have a successful relationship together. So lots of love. A new series of Cold Feet, Karen's telling me. Oh my God, that's so exciting. Does that mean where my afternoon's going to go now? I kind of wish you'd not told me that, Karen. All right, I'm going to shoot off. Lots of love to you. Thank you for being here. I celebrate you. You're amazing. I'm amazing. We are amazing. Together we can do amazing things. I'll speak to you soon. Lots of love.